They need this win now, try and reset the defeat and victory ratio, or week number 2 becomes rather dire.
其实也没有想象说表现能表现得这么好吧。
主要就是先看输的这两场的比赛，好好做检讨吧，把自己失误的地方好好改进，应该就还是要继续走下去了。
이렇게 2패로 가면은 자존심도 많이 상하잖아요. 그래서 꼭 이겨야 된다 생각해요.
So far, Worlds didn't go too well for us, so we got a bit of a tough road ahead of us to get out of groups.
今天打闪电狼比赛对我们说挺重要的，因为只要再赢一场，可以确保我们进前2。
We need to make it out of groups because last time it was really depressing to just be one game away. That means every match is super important. When people remember your performance at the international tournament, they're not like, oh, they went 1-5 or they went 3-3. It doesn't matter. They just didn't make out of groups.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Wuhan Sports Center Gymnasium for more Worlds 2017. With the fight in the groups heating up, the teams will be looking to strengthen their position by the end of the day. Of course, here you see the electric crowd in Wuhan as they've supported all of our teams throughout their journeys here in week 1. Cosplayers galore, fan signs out the wazoo. I love to see all the energy as Team WE makes their way into the arena just a short time ago. Hello, everyone. I'm James Dash Patterson, joined by Indiana Frosker in black, Alberto Crumbs Rengifo, and Isaac Azael Cummings. Bentley, the last day of the first round robin. How are we feeling?
Ready to put the Y in analysis, Dash.
Yeah, that's about right.
3 out of 10. You got to give me at least
I call it like I see it.
passing Azael.
I call it like I see
Don't
it.
make
It's a
me
solid
relive my
3.
college
I think
years.
it's fair. I think it's fair. He's tough but fair. There it is. This year's Worlds is being broadcasted in 16 different languages, making this a truly international event. Here you see some of our friends from the Chinese broadcast team, along with the Brazilian casters from the CB LOL, with many more bringing the action to regions all over the world. And yesterday we saw the 3rd seed from the North American LCS Cloud9. They managed to take down EDG, which means that they are ahead in the race for 2nd place behind SKT in Group A. Over in Group C, Royal Never Give Up got an advantage by defeating Samsung Galaxy, while the NALCS champions at TSM top Group D with just 2 wins.
Yeah, and you talk about race for second. It almost feels like a race for first at this place. There was what? The last time that, or no, a team has never gotten out of groups when they started 0-3. So we thought this was going to be between C9 and EDG. It's almost the obituary for them. AHQ might have a chance right now, but C9 look so dominant.
At first, it looked like a meme that they could take a game from SKT, but the fact that they're coming in as the 3rd seed and have shown promising games and SKT looks vulnerable, they might actually have a shot at contesting first.
Now, I love that these analysts from the other regions are hyping us up, but let's be a little bit realistic
We're trying
here.
to knock you down.
Cloud9 got pretty handily beaten earlier. When you think about last year, Jensen came in with a lot of confidence. Cloud9 always has a lot of confidence. They have yet to show me that they can actually handle SKT, I think, on this level of stage. So I still see it as a race for 2nd place.
And we talk about vulnerable Korean teams. Yesterday, we saw the first LCK team not just stumble, but fall as Samsung Galaxy lost the fight against the Chinese Hope in Royal Never Give Up.
Yeah, and it is literally the last hope for China here in RNG, as Team W have also been on a shaky start. But Samsung Galaxy, very uncharacteristic mistakes. We don't normally kind of see them make those errors, so I hope they can tighten up and still contend for that race for first.
I'm worried about them because had you taken the nameplates off, I would have told you that loss was Fenerbahce from Samsung's performance, and they really need to step up individually. They have been getting caught out all over the place. The team play that we expect to see them late game just isn't getting there, and so they need to just scratch what worked in game 2, go ahead in Game 3 and
we can
bring it back.
contrast that with the performance of both the NA and EU teams yesterday, winning all of the games that they played.
Yeah, and I'd say NA, a lot of people are talking about a bounce back, but they lost to the Korean teams on day one. That was expected, and I think that North America as a region has improved. We're seeing it here at Worlds, but they're not performing above expectation to me, with maybe the exception of the C9 EDG match. You could perhaps argue there, but for the most part, NA is performing as expected, and they're performing very well.
And you got something you want to
Well,
throw in there?
I think that's because we've lowered the expectations for North America this year. Before
I'm saying we lose to Korea, we beat everyone else.
No, last year it was
when
all
did
about
we say it was about beating
Korea,
Korea?
and they could make it out and win the whole thing. They were going to be great, but this
Who
time
in
around,
their right
we're
mind
all
last
about,
year was saying NA can win the whole
Let me be
thing?
clear. I said
cut his
maybe
mic.
TSM could get top 4.
Right.
Yeah,
But now
yeah.
we're saying
No
let's
analyst
not
on my
hype
desk.
NA
No
because it
analyst
seems like
on my
the
desk
hype-
was saying
the
NA was
hype
winning
is
it all last year.
counterproductive to NA.
Crumbs, I'm not having it. But I'm happy to have Azale on the desk today. And you want to know why? It's because of the Trundle pick. It's because we're seeing some inventive
That's why.
things come out here.
Yeah, that's why.
It's
And then I
control.
can leave.
That's
But
it.
before I leave, let's talk about Trundle. This is something that I've been expecting to see in the World's meta for a long time. And even before that, I've been talking about this for a long time. I feel like Trundle is such a good answer to these tanks. And when teams are just blind picking Cho'Gath, blind picking Maokai and Shen and these sorts of champions, not only is Trundle more than a match in the 1v1, it really lowers the effectiveness of these champions in the 5v5 because the ultimate is shredding them and creating a super tank out of Trundle.
So I'm with you that Trundle's pretty great, but he has to be coupled in with a tank jungler. And right now I'm seeing the development of the meta in the jungle to favor more of the aggressive kind of style champions. The Graves that we saw from Contract, the Ezreal, the Rek'Sai. I think these picks are more influential now as we see teams be able to crank up the heat early game. And if you combo that with a Trundle, well, your comp just doesn't make that much sense. So I'm willing to see more of the carries from the jungle and less
Ross,
of the
give me your
Trundle.
thoughts on this. Weigh in.
I understand what you're saying, but I keep feeling like you keep trying to jump on the Group B, like the outliers. And the thing is majority of the tournament is still heavily dominated by a lot of the Sejuani, a lot of the Gragas's, a lot of these tank junglers. So I like Trundle. My question is he going to start to bleed out to the other regions? Because right now it's really only been the European teams that have picked it up.
All right, and while we talk about the EU LCS, they did get off to a rough start in the group stage, but they look to prove themselves here in some very big matchups today.
And here's the thing, it is such an important day for EU. They have TSM, they have Longzhu, they have RNG. These are very tough competition, but they need to find these upsets. They need to find their foot back in this race.
So there's your look at the schedule for the day. Of course, first up is a clash between hometown favorites Team WE and the Flash Wolves, who look to strike back after losing their games yesterday.
Yeah, Flash Wolves, Rift Rivals, these two ran into each other. It didn't end so well for the Flash Wolves nor for the LMS, so these teams do have experience facing each other across on the Rift.
And for me, the Flash Wolves have been underwhelming because they are still the same team from last year that they just cannot seem to close no matter what they do early game. And up against the Misfits, they didn't even get a kill yesterday. That is quite discouraging when you're looking at a team that was supposed to be the #1 seed of an entire group.
All right, so but where does the success of these teams hinge? Why is it that if we look at them on the outset, they might be struggling? Because, for example, Team WE, people were pitting them against TSM as perhaps topping the group when we're coming into the group stages.
Yeah, that was 100% me, so I'll take the flame right there. Just at me on Twitter. No, a big issue that I really have for both these teams is actually in the support champion pool. So the fact that Janna and Lulu are so predominant on this tournament, Swordart and Bin/Zero, they're not Janna or Lulu players. These are playmaking supports. Swordart made his bread and butter on picks like Blitzcrank, like Thresh. And yes, he's having a more consistent performance with things like the Taric, but you can see it's especially in the LPL supports. We are really struggling to pick up more of these mage kind of defensive, disengaged style.
Let me get Azale in here real quick.
And while I will say that may be true, I think it just shows that a lack of adaptation, a lack of diversity in their champion pools, because there's lots of people who have the same style of champions in their wheelhouse. When you look at Smoothie and Olay, out of NA, as well as many others, those guys were playing almost exclusively.
Crumbs, I see you want to get in, but
I can translate what you're saying for those two teams and their supports. Get good. You got to have more supports.
Well, there you have it. Get good, I guess, is the answer here on the analysis. Both teams here need a win to get an edge in their group. I want to get you guys on record. Tell me who's going to win this game and why, as you mentioned.
I think this is super close, but I'm going to give it to Team WE. I just think that they've been a little bit more consistent. They had a cleaner game against Misfits. Yes, they fell down to TSM, but Flash Wolves have been stumbling in both of their appearances so far in terms of current form.
I'm with Frost on WE, especially because Karsa has been so underwhelming from the Flashers. I just feel like this team has shown no signs of being able to just hammer it home, take down the Nexus, and WE has shown that they can actually execute on it. Z8 specifically, they can close out a game, whereas the Flashers have yet to do so, and it's more on lack of trust on the Flashers as opposed to thinking that WE is just that much better.
A 0-2 Flash Wolves still looking for their first win.
Yeah,
They're going to get it?
I'm not ready to call it quits on Flash Wolves just yet. I think that Maple has been a standout still for the team. I think that his map-wide play has been very impressive, especially his use of TP. And when you look at how they actually matched up against TSM, I think that they put in a much better fight than WE did. And if they can put in that kind of performance, I think that they would win.
All right, well, there you have it. Enough from us for now. It's time to send it over to Captain Flowers, Vedius, and Jat to get us in